I was just talking to a gentleman yesterday. He had been doing houses a while, and he said, "Man, I mail these houses. We do all this marketing, and people just kept coming to me with land, and I didn't know if it was a deal or not. And these people were so easy to talk to. And then finally, I just did one day by accident, and I made $45,000 within 3 months, and I was hooked." Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host today, Brent Bowers, and today I have Mark and Mitchell on the podcast. These guys, this is the first time they've been on the podcast. These guys are funders. They run a fund. They do big land deals. But what got me so excited about talking to them and getting them on the podcast, we really didn't even get to discuss this on the podcast. A lot of this conversation was before and after we hit the record button. But these guys have 4 deals, which we did mention that on the podcast, 4 deals within 40 days of starting pay-per-click for land only with Wholesaling Inc. Guys, I want you to reach out and get on this list. There's a waiting list going right now for land investors to start pay-per-click. I'm testing it out in Florida. We've been, oh my gosh, I'll tell you something. I just got back from Germany, and I took a week. I paused it. I didn't want leads coming in like crazy while I'm in Germany for a week. This stuff's been off for like a week, and I got 4 leads yesterday and a couple today, already 2 today, and it's like noon. Well, this is working. They're coming in like crazy. It's a little overwhelming. But guys, today I've got Mark and Mitchell on. They fund large projects, large entitlement projects, whether you're finding big parcels of land and entitling it. If you don't know what that means, we're going to jump into it on today's episode. They're funding the development. So if you want to get in contact with Mark and Mitchell, I want you to head on over to wholesalinginc.com/land, wholesalinginc.com/land, and fill out an application. I'll put you in touch with them if you got a deal. It's got to be close to being under contract. Let's get right into today's episode. All right, Rhino Nation, we got Mark and Mitchell. Now they're going to be referred to as M&M on the show today. These guys are doing big things. Man, Mike over at Wholesaling Inc. reached out to me. He's like, your guys just closed a smoking hot pay-per-click deal. And come to find out, this is like the 3rd one you guys have done. So I thought I was just congratulating you for one of them. You got 3 going on. But I'm excited to chat with you guys. You guys are doing big deals, and I'm always want to talk to people doing bigger deals than me and most of the community. But before I do, this is the first time we've had you on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. Take a minute to introduce yourselves, talk about what the heck you're doing, why land, and yeah, I'm excited to get this rolling. You want to start, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mark Del Priori, one of the partners here at TM Investment Group. I'll get right to it. I mean, why land? We feel like the housing side of real estate is kind of inundated, right, and a little bit overwhelming, right? There's a lot of different people jumping in, and some people are good, some people are bad, some people are great. But there's a lot of competition. So we figured land is a great place to start for us. And we were right. I like the fact real quick of no toilets, right, and termites and all that, right. That's just a phenomenal basis. But lastly, I'm not so much a big guy on multifamily and rentals because I don't like the fact of having to increase the rents on normal average Americans to have to make money. I don't believe in that concept per se. I think it goes against the American dream. So in land, you're actually putting housing together to help people find a place to live, affordable housing essentially. Some of the deals we're doing in Texas, the house of new construction is like 350,000. You're getting a brand new home, granite countertops, beautiful. So that's why I personally love land, because you're helping people get into new homes and you're still making some profits along the way. So
I love that. I love it. Yeah, I agree. Raising the rents on just people just trying to put a roof over their heads at night. Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. Mitchell?
Yeah, my name's Mitch Akita, another partner here at Team Investment Group. I've been probably around the real estate space for a short, quick 3 years. It's been so far. Came up through, the 2020 COVID, transition where a lot of people were like, "All right, I'm sick of what do I do now?" Right? So that kind of was what was going on with me personally, and then came across Brent Daniels, Pace Morby, Jamil Damji, the whole Phoenix, wholesaling monsters, right? Got into that, quickly did some houses, wholesale some houses. That was cool. And then I got into land and started flipping some lots here locally in Southwest Florida, and was like, this is way better. Not way better, but it every time I would go back to wholesaling houses, the land would just pull me back in. And then did that, started flipping infill lots for a couple years, and then got into land entitlements, and then never really looked back. I just like the ability, kind of what Mark touched on, is where we're actually we're adding value, right? A lot of times when we buy and flip land, there needs to be some significant motivation to get prices or get property at a significant discount, right? So, but with this aspect in entitling land and creating value and creating new communities, we can pay retail because we're adding so much more value, whether we're, taking 100 acres, subdividing it into a 200 unit single family detached or attached community, or we're actually going in and putting the roads, curbs, gutters, and then selling finished lots to the home builders, DR, Lennar, Pulte, right? So I like being able to create value and actually create places where these families are going to grow up and grow their families and live there for the next 30, 40, 50 years potentially, right? And then also comes back to it gets into the affordability crisis, how everything's inflating and bringing more affordable housing into the marketplace, whether it's mobile home parks, RV parks, tiny home parks, becoming a little bit more creative in how we think what our highest and best use is of the dirt that we're buying. And that's kind of what's drawing me back to, or just draws me to the land space, because it's really the foundation of real estate, right? So everything starts with dirt. Every home, every building, every retail, every shopping center that you go into starts with the entitlement process and the approval process. So it becomes a sandbox, right? So it's just exciting.
I love it. Yeah, you're so right. It all starts with dirt. And I was just talking to a gentleman yesterday. He'd been doing houses a while, and he said, "Man, I mail these houses. We do all this marketing, and people just kept coming to me with land, and I didn't know if it was a deal or not. And these people were so easy to talk to. And then finally, I just did one day by accident, and I made $45,000 within 3 months, and I was hooked. It's kind of about similar to my story, but would you mind breaking the land? What is land entitlements? I feel like a lot of people don't understand what you mean by land entitlement. I've done. I told you guys before we hit the record button, I'm working on a land entitlement project, I've done so many simple land flips. I call them simple land flips because I buy the land and I put it on the MLS with a good realtor, a good land sales specialist realtor, and they sell it. And I hope they sell it for seller financing most of the time so I get payments. But like, can you break down like super simple for someone that doesn't even know, like understand house, or maybe they've never done a deal at all, a real estate deal at all? What do you mean when you say land entitlement process?
It's essentially the governmental approval process of taking raw dirt, right? Just a plot of land into something tangible, something real, right? And it's going through that. So, for example, what's zoning, right? Zoning is just what you're allowed to do with the property, right? So, say, hey, I have my property of 5 acres that's zoned for single family, right? That's all potential energy, right? It's zoned, but there's no use. You haven't submitted anything, right? So the second you submit something, an actual site plan, which is what you envision that 5 acres to be, you don't really have anything. You don't have anything until you have a stamp seal of approval on that project. After you've submitted to the city, you've had your civil engineer, you've done a phase one environmental, and they've gone through, done all the work, and the city has approved it. That's what entitlements means, is essentially going through that process. And then once it's sealed and approved, in the eyes of the government, that's actually a community, right? So say it's 5 acres, you turn it into 20, say 20 parcels, right? Or 20, 10,000 square foot lots or whatever it ends up being, right? In the eyes of the government, that's actually a real tangible neighborhood that just hasn't been developed yet. And that's why they call it paper lots, right? It's been platted, it's been recorded. And that's essentially what we're doing, is we're creating those governmental approved communities that needs to be developed and sold. And that's where all the value comes in, right? We're taking something that has all this potential energy and we're taking it into turning it into something that is tangible and real.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. And builders want to build. You mentioned Pulte and Lamar and DR Horton. This is why they need guys like us. Well, guys like Mark and Mitchell, guys like myself. I've got a project going on right now that we're taking 38 acres and turning it into 80 paper lots. Paper lots. We won't. There will not be roads on these lots. That's going to be up to that developer, that builder, to take care of. But basically, we're going to be selling them this property, which we call it shovel ready, to where they can stick a blade in the ground the day they buy it and start developing it right away. And that's massive value for them, because they don't have to spend the 6 or the 8 or the 9 or the 12, sometimes 18 months dealing with the counties and the officials, the government, to change the zoning, to make sure that we can pull 80 lots and buildable 80 lots, make sure there's no wetlands. If there is, we got to mitigate it. So there's massive, massive value in that if you've got the time to wait, and the money, the capital. I mean, some of these, like for instance, we're going to have about 100K into our entitlement process, but we're taking a $500,000 parcel and turning it into a $2 million parcel. So I say, we got to do those simple land flips to keep the lights on, and keep
That's right.
food on the table while we're doing those big deals. But no, that's phenomenal.
And that's a great segue into what Mark and I were doing. We were solely 100% focused on entitlements when we came into our partnership. And then deals get delayed, stuff happens, and we have to go back and re-go into our lot flipping and land flipping, because what we should have done is we should have set that business up, the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month cash flow, that you can then focus most of your time on the larger deals. So we did it in reverse, which is fine, but we're going again now. We got our land business, our flipping business rocking again, and we're excited. We're ready to roll.
Yeah, no, and that's amazing. You can always do the smaller deals later, because I started with the $285 land deals and sold them for 5,000. Eventually, you graduate out of that. One of the best things ever is where I've sold. I have currently 48 active notes that pay me every single month. These land payers, these land buyers, they pay their payment. So I can wait now 6, 8, 9, 18 months for a deal to go through, because the light bill is still being paid, the air conditioner is still rolling. But I say do both, do both while you can. And there's going to be opportunities which I want to segue into this, where you guys can help other Land Sharks community members, other people that come across these land deals. But do the small ones now, do the ones you can see and get your hands around now, and partner with other people, other Land Sharks community members, other Rhino tribe members, to do the bigger deals. I've seen this happen so many times in the Land Sharks. These guys will come across a couple hundred acres in Texas or whatever, and it'll be more money than what they've got available to them in their network. And 2 or 3 Land Sharks will get together and fund this deal. And it might take 3 months, it might take 6 months, and get it done. And I know you guys are kind of filling the gap. We've got guys all the time looking for gap funding, but how can you guys come into play with something like that when someone has maybe a deal that's just too big to get their arms wrapped around? Like, is there something you guys want to do to partner on that, or do you have any direction, or like, what's your interest on that?
Yeah, so we could be a resource in both ways. Whether we end up being the client that's going to buy the property, whether it's we can buy the property shovel ready, or if it's just raw that still needs to be entitled. We can partner, we can joint venture. We have built a great partnership, and we're GP partners in a fund with Hampshire Capital, and we just completed a nice size raise, and we are got a full capital stack to go after the 3 million house shortage that this country has. So all over the Sun Belt regions, from Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Ohio, we're looking for opportunities to help come in and be a capital joint venture partner, or just take over the project and handle it. So, because a lot of the times, right, when we're selling these large entitlement projects, a lot of these builders don't want to buy them that are paper lots, right? And why is that? Why is that? Because velocity of capital. Right? They make their money building homes. So if they can, they're looking for individuals like us who are ready, who can buy projects off their books. Meaning, D.R. Horton wants to buy finished lots so they can build and go vertical. They don't want to do development. That's why they have companies like 4-Star, which is another D.R. Horton subsidiary that they use to develop their projects. Right? And a lot of these other builders do that. So we can be that horizontal lot development arm for a lot of these companies that are looking for these projects. And we can also do the entitlements as well. So we're either looking for larger acreage that we can get around, I'd say 75 to 100 lots plus. We can come in if it's shovel ready and there's a builder lined up like DR or Lennar or Pulte in the marketplace that says, hey, you guys entitle this, we will build it. So then we come in and we will actually go in and develop all the finished lots, and then we'll sell those finished lots to whatever builder is looking for them. So essentially what I'm saying is we don't do anything speculative. That's the key part about entitlements or development, is you always want someone in contract with you that has put hard earnest money deposits, so that you're hedging your risks, right? So you want to be as least speculative as possible, because that's where people start getting in trouble. right? Because say if you're just going to the market with 100 lot community, but no one's there, well, great. You just spent, $100,000 plus in entitlements buying the land, but there's no buyer. There's no client to actually that wants the property. So you have to always factor in who are the key players in your market and making sure that there actually is an appetite for what you're proposing to the city, because anybody can get something approved, but at the end of the day, it's like wholesaling, right? Who is the end buyer? We have to work backwards, right? And that's the key to everything. It's just working backwards. Who is the end buyer? And that would be the large home builders or regional builders in whatever market you're in, and just
Yeah,
giving
and I
them what
want
they
to
want.
add to that too, Mitch. Like on the development side, not only will we do the development work, but we have through Hampshire, we will also fund developers who need the funds to do the work and JV with them as well as equity partners. So we'll bring the capital if there's already a project in line and they just need the funding. So we'll do that as well. And we've done that already in the past. So for example, some developers are saying, I have 3 projects now that I just need to get some more capital. It's really hard to get it, but we'll be able to provide it because that's what we specialize in, specifically land developing. And that's what the fund's about. So if there's any developers out there who do need funding for their projects, we'll underwrite it, we'll take a look at it, do our due diligence, and then if it looks good, we'll fund it for them so they can get more projects done throughout the year.
Yeah, I love that. So that's a good point, what you're saying too, Mitchell. And just for anybody, it's like you threw out some things called GP. That means general partner. Guys, just if I could simplify this, these guys are sitting on a pile of cash. They've got a fund. They want to buy land. They want to fund the development. And that's a good point. I didn't think about the time that it takes these builders to build these roads, put in the underground utilities, the sewer, the piping, the water lines. They're not making money with that. They're making money because they're building houses they're selling, let's just say, let me step back. They're selling these houses for, let's just say $180 a square foot. And I'm just pulling these numbers out of air from another project, but they're building it for $80 a square foot. That is really, really great cost to build out because they're buying these materials through the container load. They're getting labor for way cheaper because they're keeping they're just going from house to house to house to house. If they're making $100 a square foot per house, do the math on like a 2,000 square foot house. They just have to sell 10 houses to pay for a $2 million parcel of land. So it makes more sense for them to pay more to get it with the roads and the curbs and the gutters and the sewer, the drainage, all that stuff. So that's a really good point. And most of the time, these landowners are dirt rich, cash poor. They don't have the money to pay for the wetland study or the environmental study to make sure there's no like woolly mammoth bones or something on the land, let alone to pay the engineer $75,000. And I'm not saying that to make any of you guys avoid deals like this because there's money out there. I mean, Mark and Mitchell have it, but these landowners, they think it's worth a couple $1,000,000, but it very well could be later on, but there's a lot that goes into it to make this land worth several $1,000,000. But right now it's like, for instance, this deal I'm doing in North Carolina, it's worth 425 as it sits. But after we put 100,000 into it and wait 9 months for all the approvals and the government authorities, now it's worth 2 million. It'd be worth a lot more if we put roads and gutters and all that in it. But to simplify it, there's great deals to be had out there. But a question that a lot of people probably don't know how to do, and I'm curious about, is I come across land deals all the time, massive parcels of land. And you mentioned Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Ohio. How do I gauge, or how would someone listening to this gauge, like, is there demand? Like, I just look where success, because they leave clues. I look where other builders are building. That was a really quick indication for me. But like, do you guys have like a special scientific way that you do it, or like what's the preferred method?
No, it's just contacting the builders in your market. It's really that simple. Ask them, where are you guys looking to build? And they will tell you. And then find the parcels that are there that have access to utilities. Or if it does need well and septic, make sure your builders in your market are okay with buying well and septic lots. If they are, cool. If they're not, then you got to find opportunities where whether utilities are being extended to within a relatively short period amount of time, or there is utilities there, right? And that's the key. It's really where the builder's looking to build. You can kind of see where, if you go on Zillow and just type in 2023 or 2024 new builds and more, you'll get a gigantic heat map for free of exactly where all the new communities are being built across the country. And you can zoom in to whatever location you're at, where you're looking for property. And then typically, if there's a parcel that's being developed, well, look at the parcels nearby there. Most likely, they're going to have access to utilities without contacting with the county or city, and just start negotiating with parcel owners there, right? And just working backwards. Everything's about working backwards. So contacting your builders because those are your clients. So if you're going to get a property under contract, well, you have to have a buyer, so you're going to have to talk to them regardless, right? So that'll eliminate all the issues that you're having because they're going to tell you exactly where they want to go.
I love it. What is that? Six words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where are you looking to build? Guys, it can't be that easy. There's got to be, it's got to be harder than that.
No, it's just having conversations.
Yeah, I love the simplified
And they
version.
don't care who you are. They don't care who you are. If you have a great land deal, they don't care who you are. They'll buy it. And that's the
Yeah,
thing.
they'll buy it when it's shovel ready and or roads in place. I mean, they don't want to go through the entire. I mean, maybe some of them will. The smaller
Some of
builders.
them might, depending on the area. If it's a hot market and they're fighting, if there's multiple builders fighting, they'll probably be open to. There's some people that we've talked to that, they get their builders to fund their entitlement cost. You can do it, right? There's ways to do that, and just depends how good of a deal that you have, right? Builders they're able to make some magic happen if you have the right opportunity.
Yeah, key words like you said though, depending on how hot the area. Like if it's like Raleigh, North Carolina, they'll probably fund the
Right.
entitlement process.
Not always, but they're open to it. If you throw the words out there and they say the deal dies because they can't do that, they have ways to fund civil engineer because civil engineers and other geotechnical engineers, they're all considered contractors, right? The third parties. So it's like a loophole how they're able to fund because they can have invoices sent to the civil engineer or contractors to do the work. So it's not tied to the property. So there's ways they can get creative and fund that outside of escrow. But essentially,
Good.
to back to what you're asking, it's just asking where the builders want to go, where they're looking for, and then identifying those parcels and lock. It all starts with the deal. Whoever has the deal controls everything.
Yeah.
Just like whoever has the money has a lot of leverage, right? If you have the money, you dictate the terms. Just like if you have the deal, you dictate the terms as well. So you have to have either one.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And it's all, at what we are is, we're really just deal engineers. We're putting everything
Right.
together. The guys that have the piles of money sitting on the cash, they're not going to go out there and beat what we call beat the palmettos.
Mm-mm.
They're not gonna be the ones calling the builders, asking where they want to build, and mailing the landowners, setting up the pay-per-click campaigns, and we didn't even get to break into that. Real quick, we're out of time, but guys, real quick, what are you guys gonna make on that one deal you just locked up on pay-per-click with Wholesaling Inc. Running your pay-per-click?
We just had everything, the HUD dispersed, and it's going to be around 59,000
You're gonna make
from
$59,000 on a land
yeah,
deal.
less than 30 days.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And what's amazing, less than 30 days from the time that your pay-per-click was set up through Wholesaling Inc. for land.
It was about okay, so since we've started, it's been about I'd say 40 days and we have 4 contracts and we're looking gross 140,000 potentially. It's crazy.
Beautiful.
I don't
40 days, 4
nuts.
contracts, $140,000. That's what I just heard.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Phenomenal. Holy cow. I love it. Mark, you've been so quiet. I saw you come unmuted. Last words?
I mean, we're always open to JVing. We're always open to partnering. We're super transparent. We're easy to work with. We have a lot of buying power on our back pocket, and we're just looking for deals. I mean, so anyone who has deals, whether it's through the community or just people, we have a lot more to offer other than this. We have some huge tax strategies that we leverage for anybody who's selling large assets that can avoid capital gains tax. We have a great attorney that sets up this investment vehicle for that. So we got a lot to offer. So just reach out to us, however you want. I mean, we're happy to talk, have conversations. I mean, we do this day in and day out, and we love it. So.
Oh my gosh, that's how we met, Mitchell. I remember you talking to me about the deferred trust, and I need to break more into that. But I told myself that day, I'm done selling these big deals unless it's a 1031 or a deferred trust, because the tax man has been a knocking, and I'm
It's your
sick of
biggest
it.
partner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I prefer God to be my partner and other people, but yeah, unfortunately, the IRS has. I didn't realize was my silent partner in all of this. And guys, Wholesaling Inc., Rhino Nation, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We've got to have Eminem, Mark, and Mitchell back on again. There's just a wealth of knowledge and gold. I mean, I'm telling you, the first conversation, I still remember it with Mitchell. I just listened for like 15 minutes. He's telling me about this thing I'd never heard of how I can save tremendous amounts of taxes when I sell my land deals. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want you to stay in action mode. Head on over to wholesalinginc.com/land and schedule a call with me. Let's chat. Let's talk about your real estate investing goals. Let's talk about how to get guys like this to fund your deals and do bigger deals today. That's wholesalinginc.com/land. Mark, Mitchell, God bless you guys, and thanks for being so giving and with your time. And let's do another one of these.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.